Are you recording me smoking? Or my reaction to the embarrassment that is this? Do you have my contemplative face? Peace. I don't really know if it is very peaceful. No, I think at the minute we're in a stage of forced peace, because we realise, I think, all the barbarians within us all realise that we cannot continue this way if we want to actually live. So I think this sort of peace isn't really peace. It's kind of like we can't really kill each other. Like this sort of logic obviously kicked in at some stage amidst the craziness, that we can't really kill each other and survive. The fact that I'm still feeling it and I didn't even live through it surely is an indication of the fact that no matter how many generations it goes down the line, there's still going to be stories. There's still going to be people that are causing trouble. And there's not going to be peace because people can't let go at all,
We wanted a peace wall built there, as they're so called. Now, some people didn't want the walls, to be quite honest, because obviously it was entertainment for some people, because they could stay up all night and watch it or participate in it. But I worked every day and had to get up for work, and getting no sleep. You just couldn't do it. So I was one of the ones that campaigned to get the wall done.
And people still feel they need to keep them up. They still don't feel safe enough, even though there's not many houses, they just don't feel safe enough to be able to live, go to their bed at night and think nothing's wrong. So prepared to live like this, probably in our early years, just to see how things will go. Here there's two doors, up door's a security door, and then there's another door behind that, where to live.
Side of my face.
We're talking about the 50s, maybe.
Getting anything here,
It's a wee corner house, a wee nursery. Things like that.
They're just going to go out. They're just going to go out.
Where this isn't looking in again.
They're just going to go out.
Just hurry up. Normally, dark nights are probably closed about 6 o'clock at night. And that's it. Next morning it'll be opened again about 7 o'clock in the morning. It'll be open then. Nobody gets in, nobody gets out in between that.
I think the way things are now, everything's all right, but I don't know what will happen. They're talking about bringing the peace walls and all down, and friction could start up over that again.
But are they talking about really?
Trying to bring the peace walls all down, because Northern Ireland's covered in peace walls, and they are talking about bringing them down, but I think it's a bit early for things like that yet. My name is Janice Bell and I was born in Highfield. It's an estate at the top of the Shankill. It was built in the 50s to ease the overcrowding in the what we call back streets of the Shankill. And born up in a very traditional unionist family that, you know, my father was in the Orange Order, my mother was in the Orange Order. We were put into the Orange Order when we were the age, the juniors, you know, we played with bands, just brought up in a very Protestant culture. We weren't brought up to hate Catholics or not to like Catholics, because my mummy had Catholic friends, my daddy had Catholic friends, but in our own family was a very unionist Protestant culture, and it stays with you all your life. It just doesn't leave you, you know. I mean, as I say, we weren't brought up to hate Catholics. We didn't like them very much, because at the start of the Troubles, I mean, I was 9 when the Troubles started, and we always heard the bad things about Catholics. We never heard good things about them, you know. And when you're 9, every Catholic's an IRA man, and, you know, they were all living with guns and bombs and out to hurt people, you know. Well, when you're 9, that's just, you take what's given to you and you make your own mind up. I've protested and I've been on protests because I believed that my heritage was under threat, and I would still protest, I would still go out and I would still stand, because at the end of the day I am a British citizen and I want to remain a British citizen. And I don't see why I should have to move to England, Scotland or Wales to be that British citizen, because I was born a British citizen in Northern Ireland.
My name is Evelyn Gilroy. My maiden name was Evelyn Brennan. I was born in Bow Street, just off the Falls Road in Belfast. I mean, I grew up a Republican in a Republican household. We were all Republicans. We were all very much into Republican history, Irish history. We didn't believe in the partition of the state. You know, when you're children, you don't really understand this stuff, but it's sort of ingrained in you that, you know, you just come up with your parents' beliefs. But then I think 1969, it was the turning point for me. It was like, you know, no matter who you are or what you are, you will always go to the help of your own community. You're under attack, but everybody's under attack, so the whole psychology of it is your community, and as one, you have to hold together. And because we were Catholics, it was definitely sectarian, highly sectarian.
I think that's the coffee. Right now. I think I can smell it. Yes, that's the coffee. And there's tea there, girls.
Thank you very much.
This is a strange thing to say, but the war was actually, it was in lots of ways good for the women, because the women, typical Irish, the woman was in the house and women really didn't go out then, or they didn't. But when the war started, then the women started to go out and they organised the streets and organised duck patrols. I think Evelyn's filled you in on those. Organised the things in their area. Actually, some of them absolutely amazed that they could do these things, weren't they, Nola? But they did it. And I mean, see, without the woman, the war could not have happened. It really couldn't. They were letting their houses be used. They were keeping gear. They were carrying gear. They were visiting the jails. I mean, the big escape in the Kesh that happened, there was specifically 3 wee girls that carried all that stuff into them, and guns, the lot. They just carried that in. So, and then women got their bit of independence then, and started to realise that, you know, we can do things here. We're quite intelligent. In that respect, it was a good thing, because it did sort of bring women. But the war couldn't have happened without the women, could it, Nola?
No.
At my time, there was very, very few women in the IRA. Very, very few, but that became more common as time went on. There was Common on, I'm sure you've heard. But I was affiliated to Common on, but actually I was IRA. And again, I mean, I hope it's okay to say this, but I was active, so I was taken to the side and sworn into the IRA with the men, and became very, very active. Now, other women, this happened to other women as well. Not all women in the movement were coming on, although if you were an IRA woman, you were attached to coming on. You know, it wasn't one or the other. There was an affiliation with coming on. But around that time, I think it was 71, the Court of Cantor, whoever, you know, the head of the Republican movement, met and discussed this, and some women wanted to be army. Some women preferred to lift a gun, take on the same role as a man. It's just like we're talking about feminism and womanism. It's about equality. And if you're going to fight for your country, then why can he do it and I don't do it? I'm not here to bandage wounded soldiers. I'm here to fight for my country. So it sort of progressed with the times. I don't think it was ever a plan, But as the women's movement progressed, obviously thinking on women progressed. Do you understand? Even army ways, you know, like women aren't no longer the nurses and the doctors or the carers. They're fit and able-bodied people who can fire a rifle and who can do as much as a man, if not more. So I think the thinking just evolved with the women's movement, and that's how it came about. I just don't think it was any delivered philosophy. I just think it evolved, you know, with, you know, women's rights, the pill, birth control. All that stuff was all going on at that time in the late 60s, so you had an involvement there.
In my opinion, in my view, if the woman hadn't been behind the male volunteer, there wouldn't been as many operations. You know, I mean, in the 70s, it was mostly the males that, with the weaponry, say. But I think they learned that they understand that we were just as much can do things as well as maybe not better than what the male could do. So I think they learned to accept that the women was just done as much as what the men done. As I'm saying, if not more, because we were the backbone, I say, of them. And sure, even the wives of the volunteers, they were the backbone of their husbands, or they wouldn't have been able, they had to support them too. So I would say the women was the elite in the war, and we still are.
But I always felt in the Republican movement, women were total subordinates. I mean, I remember that was one of the reasons that I left the very Catholic conservative Common on. Those women to me were sometimes more austere than IRA men, you know. They believed that although you were in the Republican movement, you were looked on as a soldier, you were a good Catholic Irish girl, and you had to behave like a good Catholic Irish girl. I found the Common very, I remember a lovely, lovely girl I knew being dismissed from the Common because she got pregnant, while her partner, who was in the IRA, just sailed on about his business. And I think that subordinate role is still there. I think we were always viewed as subordinates. Women were never equals to the men. I mean, I was an IRA volunteer, but that wasn't the norm. Women were always seen in a secondary role, and okay, we had people like Jerry Adams and all telling us about the important part that women played, but they've been written out of Irish history once again. I mean, the women's part has been just brought down to, I mean, I even hear men speaking now and they'll say, the men in the jails, the men on the ground, the men, and as if women have just gone again, where women always go to the back. And
do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there, I do not sleep. Do not stand at my grave and cry when Ireland lives. I do not die. A woman's place is not at home. The fight for freedom, it still goes on. pick up my gun until freedom's day. I pledge to fight for the IRA.
It's your turn and then I have questions. I don't know, what was it?
I'm Susan. I was born in Fortingall Street. I was in a band. I ran a band for years, an accordion band, for about. I went to a field when I was 6 months pregnant with a side drum, but I've always been into bands and I'm a real Protestant. That's what I would. Real loyalist. You have to, as I say, be a Protestant. Your blood boils, you feel it. Even if you hear a band now, your blood, it's on fire. And you just get the rhythm. The bands do something to you. It's hard to explain.
We're coming. We're fighting. We are coming down. Come down the road. We're coming. Tears of the UVF. And we're coming down the road. We're coming. Tears of the UVF. And we're coming down the road.
I was born and brought up to respect the Orange Order. From I was 9 until I was 17, telling a lie, till I was in my 20s, I was involved in the Orange Order. And one day, this is exactly how it happened. Lita, as you know, had 3 girls. Lita was a single parent. Lita and I were friends. And it was the Orange Order Juniors' Day out. So we gets the 3 girls ready and takes them down. And we're standing outside the Orange Hall and the superintendent of the Junior Lodge says to me, Lita, the bands were going to Carrickfergus for the day. Are you going to Carrick? Yes. Oh good, you can mind them and I don't have to go. Which left us in charge of maybe 10, 12 wee lassies. So I says to Lita, well that's okay, me and Lita will put our collarettes on and walk at the back of them. No, yous aren't allowed. Well, it's only ones that's affiliated to the juniors can't. I says, sure, we're Orange women. We're freely paid up, due paying member Orange women. And we can't put our collarettes on and walk behind them kids? No. I says, but we can get on the train with them, take them to Carrick, mind them for a lot of hours, bring them back in the train, and then you fall in at Belfast, walk up a Shankill and get all the glory? Don't think so. There's your Colorado. And it was as simple as that. It was a matter of principle, because women weren't allowed to walk in Belfast with their orange order. They do now, but then they weren't allowed. And me and Lita both resigned over that. Somebody in 1837 or whatever decided, women don't walk. And it was a rule right up until, it's only lately, the last, 10 years or something, women's been walking. And the reason that they started to let women walk was that the men's numbers were depleting so much that they had to let the women walk to make the numbers up. Now they're getting more of a say. They'll never run the Orange Order. Never. And young people will never run the Orange Order because it's an old man's organisation.
The role of the women was stay at home, look after your family, feed your men, for the men to go out and fight. As much as I wanted to go out and fight too, we weren't allowed. We had to stay at home with the children. I got crates, empty milk crates and empty milk bottles, and made petrol bombs and stored them in the wee backyard then. It was a wee 2 up, 2 down. And stored them in the backyard, as everybody did then. In case there was an attack, they were all ready. And I'm sitting here today and I can't believe that I actually sat and made petrol bombs. Know what I mean? But then that was the done thing. That's what you had to do to protect your community.
When I was 18, I joined UDR because I believed in what they were doing. Wasn't only because my daddy, we were all army orientated in the family, but I have 2 brothers and a sister. My 2 brothers joined the Irish Rangers, they were in the army. But as time went on, the troubles got worse. If there was a riot or a protest, I was there. I've been arrested a couple of times for protesting in the cells overnight. But I believed I was doing for my bit for the Protestant community, for Northern Ireland. Because the way I thought the Protestant people were getting put out of their own country, so I had to be there to protect what the Protestant people were standing for. So I used to get my supper made, get my kids ready for bed and put them to bed, and every night I swept the yard down to the corner of the ratting. My husband minded the kids and I done all the ratting and all in our house. If there was a protest or a riot, I was there, me and my lady.
And they were saying, what's the bacon? Well, the pillars was... Exactly. Pillars was all video. They were all video. You fucking bastards.
It's quieter. And to tell you the truth, sometimes it's boring because there's nothing to do now. Where before, when there was troubles, you got your kids to bed, and I'm being genuine and telling the truth, you went out and watched what was going on. But now you're stuck in the house now, you're just a housewife, nothing to do.
A few years ago, we tried to get a group of women together who were actively involved in the conflict in terms of, hiding weapons, carrying weapons, that kind of thing. And they were very, very loath to speak out because they almost wanted to forget that they'd ever been involved at that level. They almost didn't see themselves as activists at all. They just saw themselves as women trying to keep their families together. and that's how they define themselves, more as active combatants. And I suppose that's how the loyalist community and the Republican community differs, where women are much more willing in that community to stand up and assert their role as active members in the violent conflict. Women within loyalism would be much more loath to do that. And I also think that's not only about how they define themselves, I think it's also about not taking away from their men. I think loyalism and people within loyalism have a much harder time in defining our identity. So for example, republicanism is very black and white. You know, you were against the British state, you wanted to fight the British state, you weren't anti-Protestant, but you wanted the British out of Ireland. Very black and white. For loyalists it's not, because the very cause that we're defending, to remain British, is the very system that's also oppressing us. So it's a system that's, you know, locking the men up, it's a system that's, you know, doing all of that. So identity within loyalism is a big thing. It's very difficult for us to truly define who we are, and our identity, I think, is much greyer, and I think women feel that quite keenly. Who are they within that, and what role do they play? So I think that's why it's much more difficult to analyse what's happening within loyalism. And often people think we have low capacity, we're not as organised, we're not as strong. I totally disagree with that. I think loyalism and loyalist women have just been on a very different journey. And a different journey doesn't mean it's less valid or less credible. It's just different, and it's ours, and it's rightfully ours, and I don't apologise for it.
The irony of the whole thing is, even the Protestants and the Catholic nationalists, unionists, nobody wants us.
Yes.
You know, nobody wants us. The mentality of unionists who claim like we want to still belong to England, when they go over to England, they're called a paddy, because the English people don't really comprehend the whole bigotry, the whole conflict, and so within our wee sort of Northern Ireland, the South doesn't want us, the British don't want the Unionists, so we're sort of wee entity really on our own, and we would really have more in common. Therein lies the tragedy. We would actually have more in common with Protestants in the north than we would have with down south, than they would have with England. It's just because this whole state was set up as a sectarian state, and that's where the root of it is.
Number one.
Yes.
I Lila number 2, me and Eva number 4, Raya Kelly and Josie number 5, Big Marie number 6, Grilo and Amanda.
Yeah.
The next one, who else? Wait a see. Now we made a nursery. There was actually a baby born in the jail.
There was a baby born, one of the girls.
Rita had a baby girl when she was on remand, and we actually done one cell up like a nursery. That was done all wee cartoons.
Our baby stayed
and
with
her,
her till her
it was just
sentence
and then
was
she actually got released early in the child before the child
and let the
turned 1.
child out, yes, before the child, because when the child turned a year old, the child was going to be taken from Rita because it wasn't allowed to be in the jail. So they give Rita early release to go home with her baby.
Was this your cell?
Kate, the next one, lady, I was near the toilets.
Well, then that was Kate McGuinness's.
Kate McGuinness was beside me.
And Margaret Agnew. Where's Margaret?
That's a girl, Ellen McGuire, the dirty
12 years later.
I think that's me there. Johnny said you know who that is.
Did they write? 5 women accused of breaking out of their prison cells. 5 women. Women get orders, military style. Aye.
That's you, Rosie.
Aye, look
That's
here he was
Rosie.
tonight.
You,
Jesus
Rosie?
Christ, you're not
There's
too happy
Kate.
looking there. When you look at me, what harm could that crater do to anybody? Name of Jesus.
But you think that was all a long time ago, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a lifetime, Evelyn. Jesus.
But it was an experience that you would never ever forget, and you would never regret doing it. It was it made you the person you are today. Well, hopefully you're not a bad person, but it made you the person you are. You come out a stronger woman than when you went in. Well, you actually came out a woman. You went in a child and came out a woman, being honest, because you were only a child. And you were like a mommy's girl. I was always a mommy's. My dad's blue eye and my mommy's blue eye, so... I mean, reality hits you. But I wouldn't have missed it for all the money in the world.
Take them all away, kids.
Yeah, thanks very much.
I was like a monkey climbing up that ladder, giving bars.
Then I was out my own.
We would have had a bed here, a bed there, and your wee locker.
But then we got the wing bed was our
Eva, my cellmate, I call her my wee sister. That's my cellmate. I'm more closer to Eva than I would be to Evelyn Gilroy. But I'm close to Evelyn, if you know what I mean. But it's there because me and Eva's cellmates and doubled up together. That bond's there. But you're not a devout friend to all the hundreds of Republican women prisoners in the jail. You know what I mean? You have your friendships and close friendships, and you have, what would you say, a comradeship with the other ones. And if the other ones ever needed you, being honest, because we're all the same, we're all Republicans, so you'll all help each other. But you have your elite that you call your... We're all a family, but you have a close family. It's like having a mother, father, brother, sister. You idolise them, and you have your cousins, and you idolise them. But there's a difference, and that's just the way the Republican family is. There will always be a Republic, but you have yours, really, brothers and sisters. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the worst day for me was seeing my daughter walk into the jail. That wasn't the way it was supposed to be. And she had 3 young children. And that to me was awful. It really was. And the day I was released, she wasn't out here. She was still in the jail. But you just, as Nuala said, you just cope with it. You had to. There was no choice. What were you going to do?
Do you talk with your daughter about this time in jail?
Do I talk to her about it? Yeah.
Today, I mean, is it something you share?
Oh, yes, yeah, definitely. Then my son was in jail too, and my husband, so it's quite a family affair. I don't regret anything I did. I really and truly don't. It needed to be done, and I did it. And as I said, it wasn't all doom and gloom. You had your moments, of course, but there was also other moments too, Nuala, wasn't there? That you had this closeness and the humour, and no, I don't regret what I did. I regret what's happened now, but if I had to do it again, I'd do it again.
The only thing we really was taken away from us was our freedom. Because we had political status. And we got our parcels in. We were able to wear our own clothes. Take a bath, do our hairs. But you were locked up at 8 o'clock at night. And then opened at 8 the next morning. But I think we've got it easy compared to the ones that their political status was taken away from them. It was horrible for them, especially women too.
This is Dolar's Price and Marion. They were the bombers that bombed London at the time and went on hunger strike to get brought back to Northern Ireland. Geraldine Crawford, I think Geraldine done about 12 years. Geraldine was actually shot in the leg at one time, in the knee at one time by the soldiers.
Crime is crime is crime. It is not political, it is crime. And there can be no question of granting political status. I just hope that anyone who is on hunger strike for his own sake will think fit to come off hunger strike, but that is a matter for him.
It wasn't easy what people went through, especially mothers and wives. It was harder for them, especially, you know what I mean, if they were going up to visit jails, they had to get maybe 3 parcels a week while they were on remand. And maybe they were a bit elderly, where were they getting money? Because they were only living maybe on the pension or income support. Maybe some people had 2, 3, 4, 5 of their children out of the house in prison. Where were they getting money to send out parcels? The hardship that people don't realise with mothers and fathers, wives who's rearing children and had to get parcels before they lost political status. Like they were allowed plenty of parcels. Where were they getting money? Because, you know what I mean, the Irish Republican movement hadn't got that much money then. And you were lucky if you got a couple of shillings to help you get the parcels. So really the hardship for just to look after the person in prison was as much hard. And being a prisoner, you didn't really realise that. Because you were just getting your parcel and you were opening it to see what was your cigarettes there, was your chocolates there. You know what I mean? What other wee had your biscuits there, because you really got your parcels. And them days it was what you called parcels. You know what I mean? But you didn't realise that where did your mommy get the money to supply you with all that fancy stuff that you were getting? It's only now that I'm elderly and I'm looking at my kids and I'm going, where would I ever get the money if, God forbid, which should never happen, if they ever were in prison, where would you ever get the money to keep the way you did? So mothers, parents and wives and all deserve not only the volunteers of the Irish Republican movement, but the people who backed the volunteers up, their families deserve a whole lot more, maybe more credit than what the prisoners, because at the end of the day, the prisoners just done their own thing, and you never worried. You were a prisoner and you'd get out one day. You know what I mean? Plus you were young, most of you was young, so you know, you're vibrant when you're young, nothing really affects you. You got your bad wee moments, like, but nothing affects you because you're young and because you believed in what you're in for. So you didn't do it lightly.
In Armagh jail I served my time. Strip searches were a British crime. Degraded me, but they could not see I'd suffer this to see Ireland free. Gibraltar was the place I died. McCann and Savage were by my side. I heard the order so loud and shrill. It was Thatcher's voice. She said, shoot to kill. So do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there, I do not sleep. Do not stand at my grave and cry. When Ireland lives, I do not die. When Ireland lives, I do not die.
Thank you very much for that bit of order. Thank you. One thing that we found out with all of this, we found out that there's only one song through the whole conflict here in Ireland. There's really only the one song that gives tribute to one woman, and that is Mairead Farrell, who, as we all know, gave up her life for the fight for Irish freedom and died in Gibraltar. So if you don't mind, and if you could give us a wee bit of order, because they are recording this.
But it's hard that way when you think of all that's going on now. You just wish it had never happened. But then again, it had to happen to be maybe where we are today. I don't know, but sometimes you just wish you'd have been born at another side of the town, maybe the Malone Road, and you wouldn't have went through all this. But you don't mind the jail part. It's losing someone is very, very hard. You know, I mean, like it's 30 odd years, but it's like yesterday. 37 years and the 12th of April. And you just remember every detail. And you will to the day you die. And you just remember him. It's just the way you can see him walking in the door and the way he got on, like, and both of them. Oh, but
when I was 16, yeah, I think when I was 16, my brother was murdered, but again with a plastic bullet. So he, it was quite a well-known event because it was actually filmed. His death was actually filmed, and it was quite controversial at the time, and still to the day. He was seen to be attacking a police officer, but it was a police-created riot. The police had created this riot, and he, like a lot of young men of the area, seen himself as defending his people, and rightly so. And he fought against them, and they shot him dead, and it was filmed. So that became quite a media event, and I had always been quite shy. You know, and then to be surrounded by this media, I found really, really quite overwhelming. a brother of mine committed suicide then, and that really put me over the edge. It put me over the edge, and I started drinking and taking drugs, and basically became rather spaced out, and found myself in an asylum for the first time. And that was being, when you wake up and discover that you're absolutely mad, you know, that you've just lost the plot. And in the background there's all this kind of, there's still all this conflict going on, and I'm still trying to deny that that I can see what's happening, and trying to deny that the brother's dead, and trying to deny trying to deny all this stuff that was going on around me, and basically I just went mad, and
Because nobody comes to see how you're doing. Do you need help? Or is there anything I can do for you? Blah, blah, blah. So this is what you're left to suffer. You're left to get on with it. You go to the doctor. You're through medication. Oh, blah, 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 blah. I wasn't so much medication. I was just floating, you know. I was just floating. I couldn't even remember. You know, I couldn't remember for one. If you had said to me, what did you do yesterday? I couldn't have remembered. Your mind is just blankety blank, you know. So I think the medication, you're going about like a zombie, and I think that's the way your mind must work, you know. I think there's something there that you have to gradually accept it. You know, it's hard to explain.
I love those hands.
It's so fun. Like, where do you get the courage from to go on?
No.
you know, you have to go on.
Next year, ask
and you have that. There's a courage.
This is such a nice
like something happens to go on.
It is so nice. So
the way I was left was like a car with no engine. You know, you're not going anywhere. You can't go because you're just grounded there. Oh, life's over, the end of the world is nigh, sort of thing, till you get yourself your burns and saying, oh, hold on here, I'm not going to die. I want to survive. I want to live. I have a child here, and I want to live to see that child grow up. And now that child of mine, she has 3 grandchildren, so it has paid me to go on. Like, I'm proud of her, I'm proud of my children, I couldn't be any prouder of them. And it's, you know, it's great to see. I thank the Lord that I lived to do that. I've got the strength to go on. I've got the strength to see my 3 grandchildren grow up. And I think it's beautiful to be able to look and do that and say to myself, look, I have, as what I told you, I've been to hell and back. I'll never be in it again. I have survived, and I call myself a survivor of the Troubles. I don't call myself a victim. I call myself a survivor because I have survived, and I have, from there when I started into the victims, I have went out and I've met people like myself, and to this day I felt I've done a world of good. And they all say the same. I've went and talked to them and got them out, and we'll go place, we'll go here, we'll go there. And I've been to Kosovo, Germany, South Africa, all youth work, taking youth and doing with people like myself that has lost loved ones, and I know what they're going through. I know they need to sit down and tell their story, get it out of their system. I know what they're going through. There's no point in going out and being hatred and filling yourself with hatred. That's not going to, it's not going to solve anything.
There's a lot of things we tend to block when they're too painful to look at. I mean, the time in Armagh, I do remember that I took the viewpoint, rightly or wrongly, in my stories in the book, that I was a soldier and that you didn't show emotion. So I don't believe I did show emotion. That doesn't mean I didn't feel emotion. But my attitude was the British Army were guarding us, and they would never show, they would never see any break or any sort of conquest of me as a person, no matter what they did on me. So there was a lot sort of stored in here and carried, because you didn't. We used to have a saying, you did your bird, and that was like, no matter what happened, you put your face on, you smiled. You did not let them see you broke or broken in any way. You were a soldier, you were an Irish woman, you represented the Irish Republican Army, and the British Army didn't get in to that side of you. So you became a very good actor and actresses. You became good at that, about hiding your feelings. But of course, long term, there is trauma. You live with this unknown fear. There's a fear always within you. There's a fear even opening the door. There's a fear to go up the stairs, fear to come down the stairs, fear to go into the bathroom. Fear is overwhelming, it's paralysing. And there's no reason for the fear. You know, there's a book out that is really, really good. You call it, There's Nothing to Fear But Fear Itself. If you could get that into your head, it would be wonderful. But psychologically, your memory, whatever it stores, and all those traumas which are buried, create the fear. So you're living in nerves like you did back then, because your body has become acclimatised to being on guard, waiting on the next incident, waiting on the next trauma. So you don't know how then to get rid of that. So it's, you know, that's just the way it is. And it wasn't all, you know, we've all got our scars. We've all got our scars. He's getting older now and I'm demented about him. He's my wee chum, aren't you? Aren't you? Bad boy. Bad boy.
Well, and for me, I also used to be in a relationship with the next life sentence prisoner. Not anymore, but I think it's the level of trauma in Northern Ireland as a result of the Troubles runs very, very deep, and much deeper than what we realise, and much deeper than what the international community realises. So people here are living with a level of trauma and a level of existence which isn't normal. So, for example, if a woman is living with a man who's an ex-prisoner or former combatant, he is going to have a very heightened level of surveillance. He's constantly going to be watching his back. He's never going to be relaxing. He's always going to be on edge. He's probably going to use alcohol to make him relax in the house at night. And things that for you and me would be very small things, for men that have been in prison, they're blown out of all proportion. So when you're in prison, your world is very, very small, and the small things matter. So someone didn't wash your cup properly, that becomes a huge issue. So that's transferred into the home. That becomes a huge issue. So you're living with that level of, I suppose, abnormal activity on a daily basis, so much so that it becomes normal. And you begin to ask, you know, what's going on here? Men who are very jealous. These are very practical things that people don't really talk about, you know. Men who are very jealous because they've been locked up for 12, 15, 20 years. So now that they have you, they don't want to let you out of their claws or their clutches. So there's still a lot of power and control, I think, that goes with that.
Recently, I've started to look at the conflict, and I've looked at it on the impact that it's had in my life. You know, and I can see that, you know, the seeds that ended up with me in an asylum in my 30s were planted very early, and that it basically had been a roller coaster that I'd been on. You know, that is, you know, these things had happened, and I'd reacted or closed down or hadn't accepted them, and there really was nobody to talk to. You know, there was this sort of silence, and still today there's a silence surrounding the conflict, where there's certain people will talk about it, and there's almost a thing, you know, like I'm not qualified to talk about it, as if you have to be qualified to talk about the conflict, you know, that you have to understand reports, or you have to understand this or that, or you have to have done this or that, or been in jail or done that, and you know what I mean. And I, as I say, I've started to look at that and sort of move towards looking at the conflict, and I'm trying to sort of now sort of get just ordinary people to relate their experiences of the conflict, you know, and living through that, because it became it was such an intrinsic part of the life that you didn't actually notice that it was there. And even now that it's gone, it went away so slowly.
Oh, it's here somewhere. The old ones. My dad playing pool. I never knew what it was all about. It wasn't explained to me what it was all about. It wasn't until you got a bit older and you started hearing talk out in the street that you realised that there was trouble, that there was different religions in the community, that I was a Protestant and there was Catholics, and you didn't mix, and you fought. And it's hard to understand because, you know, humans are humans, people are people, so why should a name make any difference? And it's very, very hard to understand, and even now this day I can't understand it, why a word can create so much trouble, and so much chaos, and so much grief and sorrow. And it's very, very stupid. But through the years, I just found out in the street what was happening. It was never ever explained to me. I was never sat down and explained to. And you just find out when you're out in the street and you're out in school. And it's really silly.
I think it was accepted that women should just keep their mouths shut. That was the best way to survive, was just to be silent and get through it and live with an acceptable level of violence. So we all lived with an acceptable level of violence within community life, and women lived with an acceptable level of violence within their home life, and that was the norm. Why was it the norm? I'm not sure. I think conflict changes societies and changes norms, and I do think the Troubles and the conflict masked a lot of things here, masked a lot of sexual abuse, masked a lot of domestic violence, and masked a lot of things within communities and families which never ever should have been tolerated. And what was the norm 15 years ago is no longer the norm now. And it is a really good thing, I think, that young women are growing up and being taught that this is not, this level of violence, this level of abuse, this level of sexual inappropriate activity towards you is not acceptable, and don't accept it. And I think we also lived in a very patriarchal society. Men dominated. Even if they were in prison, they dominated. And I think that a key indicator of that to me is that I think the women's movement has declined in the past 10 years. I think while the men were in prison, we stepped up and we fulfilled our role. And when the men came out of prison, we stepped aside and we allowed them to take their rightful place within a patriarchal society, which was to be in charge. So when we would have had the community jobs, when men come out of prison, they took the community jobs and we allowed them to have them because it was about their status, their power and their control.
See that girl, 2 kids in tow? That's Big Jimmy's wife. Big Jimmy is a hero, just been sent down for life. So now he lives in comfort, a martyr to his cause. When will he ever realise exactly what he's lost? There she stands, all alone, trying hard to keep her home, raising children on her own, the forgotten hero. She crawls from bed each morning to face the day ahead. Each day, much like the other, off she wishes she was dead. Then she sees her sleeping children, the feelings soon are gone. She finds inside the inner strength and knows she must go on. There she stands, all alone, trying hard to keep her home, raising children on her own, the forgotten hero. Each day is one big struggle, it's so hard to make ends meet. She feels so tired and weary, but she won't admit defeat. 2 precious lives depend on her and her alone. It breaks her heart when they both ask, when's Daddy coming home? There she stands, all alone, trying hard to keep her home, raising children on her own, the forgotten hero.
So I think another big thing that women in Northern Ireland are living with is when their man was locked up, they stood by him. They went to the prison every week. They lived in poverty to take him parcels to the prison, to give him presents, to make his life bearable. The man comes out, he stands by his wife for 10 years, then he hits midlife crisis and he starts sleeping around. Now, what's that like for a woman who has stood by her man through thick and thin? That is an awful place to be. And a lot of women are going through that and living with that. And the man thinks, well, I've served my time, now I'm going to party a wee bit. And some people may disagree with me, and some people may say we've chosen to be there, so we need to just suck it up and live with it. You know, that's life. I would say then the same to the men. Suck it up and take responsibility. And life isn't a party. So, you know, you need to take your responsibility seriously, and that's responsibilities of being a good daddy, of being there for your kids, and of not repeating the cycle of generation after generation that we've lived with. If you're committed to serving your country and you were willing to fight for your country, then be a responsible parent and be a good man now and do what needs to be done.
After about 2 years, when I came off the ceiling, When I got down off the ceiling, I decided, I'll go back to classes. And I started going to education classes again, and it was in the women's sector. I found the women's sector most accepting of where I've been, because a lot of women had shared similar experiences, and they could relate to the fact, that I wasn't mentally 100%, and that, that I was having panic attacks, or, that I was maybe imagining things happening, and because my reality had totally shifted after the suicide, and I just found myself in the women, and one course led to another, and then I qualified as a facilitator, and I started facilitating in mental health. That was one of the things that I actually done, was actually go out and facilitate in mental health, and I done different health courses, and that's really where I've spent my life since, has been in women's groups, because I find great strength in them. I find great courage among them, and great understanding and acceptance.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Jacqueline didn't even see you come in. Morning. Coffee, tea?
Please.
Please.
Well, it was women actually started up the group. These women came together and decided that, people needed help. No one was going to do it for them, so they had to do it themselves, and they trained themselves up then to become community workers, to help their community and to help what was happening in the community, because everything had been so split and so fractured, and the development there has been brilliant. Women don't realise what they're capable of until things like this happen, and the work that they have done over the last 9 years just shows what women are capable of. They're not just homemakers, there's a lot of things that women can do. So women are the lifeblood of the community. They're always there in the background doing what they have to do, but there's other things out there for women, and sometimes, I know it was a traumatic experience, but it gives these women the opportunity to progress and develop.
These three curtains is the story of FBC.
We've done essential skills, history, maths, English. Jackie used to tell me I'm going to come to the Irish, and I would talk about that.
Look at you, I'll just look at these, it's okay? So just stand.
Our group's very open. I mean, when we made the decision to go into cross-community work, it was said you have to be open to everything. And everybody says, yes, we are. When you first go to meet a new group, and a Catholic group, of course, you're nervous. You're wondering what they're going to think of you. You're wondering what you're going to think of them. But our group's very open and has embraced everything. And yes, as I say, we did lose people because of that decision we made. They didn't want to go down that route. It's a shame. But it has worked for us. And we're going to continue to do that.
We had a group of girls up on Tuesday, was it? From Londonderry, the Bogside, and I never thought I'd say that through the group. There was a group of girls come up to visit us from Londonderry, and they were from the Bogside.
And one of those girls, women, was very honest. She said that she was one of the ones that would have been out ratting as well, and would have been out with her bin lid, banging it as well. She was very honest about that, like she told us that. But we haven't got really talking properly. There's been more meetings with them. So.
But I never thought that would have happened. We'd be sitting away on the Bogside.
From the Bogside.
I didn't on all my time, I didn't think of sitting away on the Bogside.
I think there's more aspects to see on the Protestant side. The Greater Shankill Partnership made a conscious decision that they would do this project called If Walls Could Talk, and I don't think they've done that on the Catholic side yet. There's not as much information on the Catholic side. Maybe when they see our side, they'll want to do that. And I'll be quite honest with you, I've never seen the wall from a Catholic side. Maybe that's something I should do. But our side I'm really proud of, and the wall's there, but we've made it. We've made it something interesting. But I think I will actually maybe go to the Catholic side and see what it looks like.
I've worked in a Shankill. I have to say, at great risk, I went into it eyes wide open because, I mean, obviously, if the wrong person had found out I was a ex-prisoner, you know, God knows what had happened to me. But the women I worked with were also activists in their own area and just suffering the same issues: domestic violence, lack of self-esteem, you know, child abuse, rape, all those issues. So we had a common bond and we had a cause which united us across the divide, which is lovely when you think about it. You know, people are people, regardless. You know, you're not born, you're not born in any particular way. You're born as a person and then you're made. It just shows you, you know, working class people, we can overcome this if we can get together. But just, it's always been, I think it's always been the plan of the British to divide and conquer. And once working class people start to get together, they're a powerful, powerful force. You know, so I think what you have to do is open your eyes and see what's happening, you know, and educate yourself. And that doesn't mean to say I'm terribly well educated, but I mean, there's doors that can open for you, you know, and be very careful what you get involved with, because it might just ruin your life. Cut that button.
There's also a terrible financial burden there as well, you know, because, as I say, a lot of prisoners never ever get jobs. So having the money to go out to socialise. So this is the whole thing we're targeting. If we get these women out of their homes, they know they don't have to spend a penny. Take them out for the day, bring them somewhere nice, bring them in and pay for their dinner and just basically let them have a good day. And as Rosie said, hopefully we'll get more funding next year. But I mean, our funding was pittance, absolute pittance, in relation to the funding that is out there. And we did have meetings with some of the organisations who are in paid employment to look after, to work for ex-prisoners. We actually met and we actually told them that the ex-prisoners do not need education classes. Now, probably some people, some do avail of it. But what most ex-prisoners need is a wee bit of care. As far as we're concerned, there's been a big gap there. And we feel that both male and female ex-prisoners have really been left behind. So we did what do women do when these people say can't help you, then they get out and decide to help themselves. And that's just exactly what we did.
You know, because I'm too involved in it. And that's, you know, you're taking it off and your jeans back on the get somebody else.
But we'll get there.
Getting a problem that we never had before, which is drugs and youth culture, which the paramilitary's kept control over, which was a bad thing then, and it's still a bad thing because now there's no control. In working class areas, the antisocial behaviour has got worse because there's no fear of paramilitaries anymore. That's why we need tourism, that's why we need the jobs, that's why we need to use the peace money to build that future, to create jobs, to create a tourism industry and to create an economy. You know, it has to be used wisely, and they're going to have to get the young ones, get the young people jobs and get the young ones out into the world. And stop them, come back to hanging round corners and nothing, ratting out of boredom. Because 99% of the rats in this area was out of boredom. Because the kids had nothing to do. You know? So they have to use what peace money they have now to build a future. To bring the tourists in, to build the economy up so that we can stand on our own 2 feet. Who else do you put it to? I mean, you have to, you know, not everybody's going to stand up and say, right, I can run Northern Ireland. You have to give everybody a chance. I mean, who thought 20 years ago that there would be 2 sides sitting up at Stormont? You know, so that's a big leap. So you have to give it a chance. You just can't wipe it out. I mean, they're going to have to crawl before they run.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, so give it a chance.
I think it's about time, really, women were brought in from the cold.
Yes.
There was so much promise at the beginning of our struggle that so much would be achieved for women, so much would change for women. Nothing did. And it's not too late. I mean, as Veronica says, there are excellent and articulate women up at the minute in the administrations in Stormont. They have more empathy and understanding of other women's problems and daily lives, and I think they could bring about really, really instrumental change. There are also great women working as community activists in our community whose roles have never ever been acknowledged, and I just think it's about time women were brought back in and given the place they were promised. I mean,
and not as token women on their own ability, because as Nuala says, we have some pretty amazing women.
Mm-hmm.
We really do. Don't we, girl?
She's one of them.
You agree on getting filmed as well?
Yes. Are you filming here? Out here? Will we do it in the kitchen? Yeah, it's more private. Yeah. Young women aren't aspiring to be doctors. They aren't aspiring to be nurses even. They're not aspiring to be solicitors or barristers. They're aspiring to be mummies. Because that's where they think, that's where their ceiling is. They can't get any higher than that. So their identity is tied up on being a mummy. And what we have is children raising children. We have 14-year-old girls having babies. We have 13-year-old girls having babies. We now have creches within the local school because 15 and 16-year-old girls can't go to school unless they bring their babies with them. And to me that's incredibly sad. But I think it's all tied up with the whole issue of poverty. I mean, I think one of my roles is definitely to empower young women to think differently about who they are and what they can be. At 43, I'm a single parent, and I don't apologise for that. I am strong, I'm educated, and I want young people to see that you can grow up working class and you can not escape it, because I still live here, but you can do things differently. Not better, just differently, so that doors are open for you and you have different opportunities.
We've taken in events of the day, always ready to deal with the task at hand. Now the time has come to stop looking behind me. Think it's time for you to know me as I am. All I want's you to hear my voice. Really listen to what I have to say. Know my fears, my hopes, my joys, and remember all my dreams for better days. Will you remember me and all that I've been through? Know my courage and my strength, for I fought too. You and I are the same the whole world over. In a perfect world we'd stand shoulder to shoulder. For it's our children's lives that we did it all for. That's the most important joy after all. All I want's for you to hear my voice. Really listen to what I have to say. Know my fears, my hopes, my joys, and remember all my dreams for better days. Sometimes I'm tired and I think, is it all worth it? But then I think of what we've endured through the years. Mothers, daughters, wives and partners, sisters, friends and comrades too. You're the unsung heroes who get me through. All I want's you to hear my voice. Really listen to what I have to say. Know my fears, my hopes, my joys, and remember all my dreams for better days. So I sing this song to let you hear my story. It's a song that must be sung the whole way through. Hope in future years you'll come to think of me, because I've tried in my own way to think of you. I'm glad that we've moved on from those dark days. With our strength, our hearts and minds, we'll see it through. All I want's for you to hear my voice. Really listen to what I have to say. Know my fears, my hopes, my joys, and remember all my dreams for better days. And remember all my dreams for better days, for better